India and Pakistan worked out an understanding on stoppage of firing and military action, effective 5 p.m. on local time on Saturday. However, barely hours later, there were blasts heard by locals in Jammu and Kashmir and blackouts in several border cities in the northern and western sector were carried out. Let's also listen to the announcement of the ceasefire by Indian Foreign Ministry and the second statement coming close to midnight after fresh drones were spotted in Srinagar and other areas.
Both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours.
For the last few hours, there have been repeated violations of the understanding arrived at earlier this evening between the Directors General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan. This is a breach of the understanding arrived at earlier today. The armed forces are giving an adequate and appropriate response to these violations, and we take very, very serious notice of these violations.
After India's warning, no firing or shelling was reported overnight in the border areas of India's Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. India has made it clear that any act of terror will now be treated as an act of war. After days of Pakistan's aggression and calculated Indian strikes deep inside Pakistani territory, a ceasefire has been declared. But it is India that has set the terms, and the red lines have never been clear. India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack was swift and precise. Operation Zindur saw Indian forces launch precision strikes against 9 terror hubs inside Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, targeting only infrastructure linked to terrorism and avoiding civilian or religious sites. In retaliation for Pakistan's attempt to target some Indian Air Force stations, India's armed forces struck 4 major Pakistani air bases: Noor Khan Base, Rawalpindi, Murid Air Base, and Rafiki Air Base. Now, this was not random retaliation. Indian armed forces chose every target to ensure no collateral damage and maximize impact on Pakistan's ability to launch or support further terror attacks. Now, these strikes made it clear India's military will act with precision and restraint, but with devastating effect when provoked. The ceasefire, effective from 5 p.m. local time on Saturday, came only after Pakistan's military initiated contact and agreed to halt all firing and military action on land, air, and sea. Now, the next round of talks between the two DGMOs is set for May 12th to review compliances. India's leadership has made it clear this is not a concession, but a conditional pause. The armed forces remain on high alert, and the government has warned that any future act of terror, no matter the scale, will be treated as an act of war, inviting a decisive and overwhelming response. Now, this marks a formal shift in India's security doctrine. No longer will terror attacks be met with mere diplomatic protests or limited responses. The rules of engagement have changed. Any future attack traced to Pakistan-based groups will justify retaliation under international law, invoking India's right to self-defense. India's message to Islamabad is unambiguous. Peace is welcome, but provocation will be met with force. The era of strategic patience is over. The world has seen India's reach, and Pakistan has been put on notice. Terrorism will be answered with war.